Hey, Sean Garzone here, and welcome back to another beautiful chapter of PAX. So yeah, let's get straight onto this. This is going to be 8 pages, and yeah, let's do this. By the way, this video is dedicated to... God, what's his name? To Scott the Great. I don't remember his channel. It's very embarrassing. Anyways, let's do this. The moon shone through the trees, as full and creamy yellow as the eggs Pax had eaten a week before. His stomach cramped as he paced the river's edge. Only 3 times in the week and a half since his humans had left him had he eaten a big meal enough to fill his belly. And the last one, a pile of fish rotting on the bank, he'd retched up minutes later. He had retrieved the quiche ham and watched with pride as Bristle and Runt ate the meat, but he hadn't touched any of it. And he still had no luck hunting. All his fat reserves were gone. His coat hung loose, and he was burning muscle. Pax trained his nose to the humans' camp, which, as always, tortured him with its rich food scents. Over the past 2 days, more warsick had arrived, and hundreds of them were massing to the south beyond. The ground vibrated with their threat, but Pax was hungry. He looked over to where Bristle was guarding the sleeping Runt and signaled that he would leave. Although he could see the camp directly above him, he chose his old route, up the gorge and across the ridge, because the guards on the wall were facing the river. He padded up the rocks in the water, leaving no tracks, away from the silence of the devastated field. His ears pricked towards the night sounds. He knew them now. They comforted him. The thin piping of bats, the careless crashing of a waddling skunk, the underground bustle of voles, the distant calls of owls, all these sounds told him he was not hunting alone. Pax himself made no noise. He had learned the secrets of stealth from Gray and Bristle. Like a shadow, he slipped across the ridge, down the hill, and into the grub tent. No easy meat hung this night, but the tables were piled high with vegetables and breads. He knocked a wheel of cheese to the ground. The taste was strong and strange, but he gulped until his belly stretched tight as he headed back out carrying a hunk for Bristle. A familiar scent stopped him in his tracks. Peanut butter. Oh, peanut butter. It was drifting out of a large metal can. Pax dropped the cheese. He stood to sniff at the rim, like the garbage bin at his boy's home. The can promised a variety of scraps, but above the coming lid scents rose the one he craved more than any other. His whiskers ruffled in pleasure. This is amazing. He nudged the lid aside a few inches. The clear jar lay on top of the heap, its sides still smeared thick with the creamy prize. Pax edged his snout under the lid and bit the top of the rim carefully. He knew from experience this is how to grip the jar so it didn't cover his nose. He pushed away from the garbage can, and the lid clattered to the stony ground, ringing an alarm in the quiet night. Pax ducked under the table and froze. His pulse quickened. Across the tent, the flap snapped open. A human stepped in and clicked on the beam of light. Even over at the peanut butter, Pax recognized the scent, his boy's father. Pax raised a paw, ready to dart in whatever direction seemed safest. The man swept the light around the tent. When it fell on Pax's eyes, he winced, but he didn't move. Oh my god, girl. This is crazy. His pupils adjusted, and Pax saw the man crouch to stare at him. Pax remained frozen, paw still raised, jar still clamped in his jaws, studying the man's face as the man studied his. The man grunted, rubbing his chin. Then he gave a rough laugh. Pax lowered his paw an inch, holding the man's gaze, testing him. His boy's father laughed again, then rose and lifted the tent flap. He hooked his boot through the opening. Pax knew the signal. The man had used it on him often at the door of the human's house. At the door of his pen, go through it meant, Go through right now and I won't harm you. The pact was reliable. Pax sped past him into the safety of the night. He didn't slow down until he reached the spine of the hill. He buried the jar and then crouched to watch for the movement at the camp in the pre-dawn light. Although he was certain no humans had followed him, he took off snaking a loose loop for a half an hour before doubling back to drop down to the river. River was awake when Pax returned, and for the first time since the explosion, he was struggling to rise. Bristle urged him back down, but Pax saw that his lips were cracked and his eyes were sunken. He needs water. Bristle looked to the river's edge. A dozen full bounds for a healthy fox. Would it even be possible for one? The little fox braced his forelegs. He tightened his haunches to rise, then looked back in surprise. The leg that had been a part of him his whole life, as much as a part of him as his own scent, was gone. He bent and sniffed at the wound. He looked up at Pax and then Bristle, as if searching for an explanation. Again he strained upward. His one remaining back leg jacked him up, and Runt rolled onto his wounded haunch with a yelp of pain. Pax leaped to stand by his injured side. Runt got to his front legs once more and then straightened his one back leg. Again, he canted over. This time, though, he fell against the strong, tall flank of the older fox, and he did not cry out. He wobbled, searching for a new balance. When he found it, Pax took a single step toward the water, then waited. Runt stepped out. First the two front legs, then a dragging hop with the single back leg, and a collapse against Pax. And this is real sad. Okay. Again, Pax took a single step. Again, the small fox matched it, and again, and once more, until he didn't waver at all. Bristle ran ahead to the bank, and step by wounded step, Runt closed the distance until he flopped down by the riverbank and stretched his neck out to lap at the cool water. When he was sated, he dropped his head, his eyes closing, but Bristle nipped him. Soon it would be full daylight. He would be exposed. She ran up river to stands of paddles. Runt limped after her. She was still clumsy and trembling and slow, but he did not fall once. Pax followed close by. Just as they had reached the stands of reeds, Pax startled at the crackling of bush from downstream. Bristle's head snapped around, too. Her ears cocked to the same spot across the river. Something large was coming. Runt dipped his head to sniff at a snail. Pax and Bristle backed into the cadale reeds. Bristle called to her brother. Runt did not turn his head. A buck pranced out of the vegetation, tossed his antlers, then splashed into the river. Bristle barked for her brother again, and he ignored her. The deer clattered up onto another bank, heading for the bright grass of an unscorched area of field. At its edge, he lifted a hoof. As he set it down, the earth rocked, and the bright grass blew. The buck burst up, his back twisting and snapping. Runt screamed his terror at the quaking ground. Bristle and Pax herded him into the cool dark of the reeds and soothed him until he understood that he was unharmed. The foxes watched the soldiers run down the hill, swept their beam of light over the heap of the field, then go back. As the pink sun arose over the pines, vast patches of grass in the field flared up and crackled. Field mice stumbled out toward the cool safety of the riverbank. Dazed and disoriented, they would have made easy meals, but Bristle let them pass, as if obeying some code that protected those so terrified. She stood and gazed over the smoking field. We have to leave here, now. Pax knew that she was right. He followed her out of the reeds. Bristle called to Runt, who was watching a wandering vole. He didn't even flick his ears towards his sister, and Pax understood. She can't hear. Oh, hi, Dev! That's some serious stuff. Well, that was quite the short chapter. Hope you guys enjoyed this chapter of Pax. I think, let me quickly check how many chapters there are, because I'm pretty sure we're almost done here. We only have a few chapters left. Well, it's not freaking saying how many chapters there's left. Let me just check how many Yeah, we only have, because we just read 23, so we have 9 chapters. 9 chapters left until we're finished with this book, ladies and gentlemen. The book that I've been reading since March or February. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Packs. If you guys do want to see more, remember to leave a like and subscribe. But until then, my name is Sean Alexander. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.